So a couple months ago, I posted this photo on Instagram and I got so much attention that Mercedes themselves reached out and wanted to use my photo to post on their Instagram. So I thought I'd show you guys how I edited the photo. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Okay, so starting off, let's go ahead and crop the photo. Now I like to crop my photos before I start. That way I can just get a feel of what it's gonna look like on Instagram. Now here's a tip: if you are going to be going into Photoshop, do not crop until you are done with Photoshop, because once you go into Photoshop, your image is cropped and you can't go back to the original ratio that you had it as before. So make sure you crop after you use Photoshop. That's just kind of a pro tip. I'm not gonna be using Photoshop on here, but let's see. I think right about there looks good, and you're gonna wanna use the 4:5 aspect ratio. That way you take up as much real estate on Instagram as possible. That way more people can see your photo. I think that looks good. Boom, perfect. Okay, so now that we got the photo nice and cropped, what I like to move to next is getting the white balance right. That way I know exactly what I'm working with when I'm editing the photo and I'm changing the colors. So let's go ahead and do that. Scroll down to color. I'm gonna make this just a little bit warmer, and I think there's a little bit too much green in it. Actually, we're gonna make it more warmer than that. I think 595, right about there. I think that looks good. And here's a little tip too. If you push the button right underneath your delete, this is for Mac at least, backslash button, go ahead and push that. You can see the before and after. So just right there with a crop and white balance, you can see the before and after of this, and that looks good honestly already, but we're gonna keep on adding to it. So next we're gonna go ahead and jump into exposure. So with exposure, we're gonna go ahead and turn it up just a smidge. Don't want it too much. Drop the highlights quite a bit, or all the way, drop them all the way. Next, we're gonna go into contrast. I like more contrast in my photos. It is a preference, it is totally up to you. That looks good. We're gonna drop the blacks again just to get more contrast in there. Whites, raise them up just a little bit. Shadows, now you can see the shadows in the wheels right there. It kind of has a cool darking gloom kind of feel to it right now, but we're gonna go ahead and raise those a little bit. Right there, I think that looks good. That looks good, perfect. So now that the basic adjustments are out of the way, we can go ahead and dive deeper into the photo and start adjusting and color changing it. But first, before we do that, let's go ahead and jump to the point curve. So I'm gonna make 3 points. Just kind of make your basic S curve right here. That looks good, and you can see the before and after, just slightly editing, adjusting the photo right there. Now, let's go ahead and jump into the color. This is where it kind of gets a lot more technical, a little bit more stylish, and it's really a lot of preference. So we're gonna go ahead and start off with the hues first, not really touching the reds. Let's see, there's not any red in the photo. Let's see about orange. There's orange in the photos. We're gonna drop those just a little bit, make it so it's not everything is just one solid color. And a quick way to see if there is a certain color in your photo too, just pick the slider, drag up and down with it, and you can see what you're adjusting right there. That is a quick way to find out. So we're gonna make our yellows just a little bit more orangey. That way there's different colors in there, our greens. Slide the greens down a little, let's see, look. That's what I'm affecting, okay. So I want a little bit more of a fall-y look. I think right about there looks good. Blues, a little bit of blue in the wrap right there, and you can see it in the back building as well. So we're gonna go ahead and drop those down just a little bit, not too much though. Right about there. Purple and magenta, there shouldn't really be any. Nope, there's nothing in there. What about magenta? And there's no magentas either. Cool, so now let's go ahead and jump into the saturation. Saturation, we're gonna raise it. Saturation of the reds, we're gonna raise a little bit so you can get a little bit more of red in the leaves. I think right about there. What about oranges? Okay, oranges we're gonna turn down just a little bit because I think the orange leaves are popping a little bit too much. Greens, we're gonna raise the greens actually a little bit just to add a little bit more contrast to the photo. Again, no purples, no magentas. Cool, okay. What about blues? We're gonna turn down the blue just a little bit so the wrap isn't really so purple, bluish. And then next we're gonna jump into the luminance side. Reds, we're gonna leave alone. Oranges, we're gonna turn the oranges down just a smidge. I think -10 looks good right there. Yellows, do not like that. So we're gonna go ahead and turn these down just so your eye just goes a little bit more towards the car, not so much the leaves or anything like that. It's all about drawing attention to your subject. There's no aquas, there's some blues in there. Let's go ahead and drop the blues, just a smidge. Purple. There's purple in the back building, kind of, not really, not a whole lot right there. Cool. Now let's go ahead and jump into your effects tab. This is where a lot of people add their sharpening to their photos. You can turn up your texture and your clarity and dehaze. I'm really gonna be focusing on the texture and the clarity. I very rarely touch the dehaze. It's not something I use very often. I do use it, there's a place for it, but not in this photo. I usually start with a clarity slider first and go ahead and turn it up a little bit. I know some people like to blast it all the way up. I do not like the way that looks. That's not my thing, it's not my preference. Do whatever you want, but for me, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna turn it up right there, add a little bit of texture to the photo overall. So you can see right here, just a slight difference. You click this little eyeball right there, you can see before and after of what you did for just that setting. Look, I'll show you right here. We'll go to the color mixer, click the eyeball, take it away. You can see I really changed the color of the leaves, the bushes behind there, and slightly the color of the car. I just think it adds a little bit more of a fall effect and a little bit more of a darker look to the leaves, so your eyeballs are drawn more towards the car and not so much the leaves. And next we're gonna go into the sharpening tab, turn the sharpener tab down, click the masking, because if you don't touch the masking, what's gonna happen is you're gonna apply the sharpening to the entire photo. And a quick little tip to make your photos pop is to grab this masking tool, click it, and if you're on a MacBook Pro, I'm not sure what it's on PC, click the option and drag just so you get the outline of the car. And what that's gonna do is you can apply sharpening just to these white lines right here that you see, watch. So these white lines, that's what it's applying the sharpness to, because if you leave it like this, it's applying sharpening to the entire photo. I don't really like that. This is more of a detailed kind of thing, so I think right about there looks good. Perfect. Remove chromatic aberration, click that, enable lens correction, see what that does. Nope, we're gonna leave that. Cool, and there you go. That's what it looked like. This is a before, and that is an after. And again, these are the photos that Mercedes used. I know the car was dirty. We drove around town all day like this. It was raining that day. We were driving from Las Vegas to Red Rock and back. And then we just so happened to find this spot right here with the leaves falling, and we thought it looked good. So we pulled over and we took some photos, and that's how that went. So what's really cool about Lightroom 2 is you can click these three dots right here, choose settings to copy, hit copy, go to the next photo, Command V or paste it, whatever setting you have right there, and there you go, pasted all of your settings to this. So that comes really in handy when you're batch editing. That way I don't have to go through here and make all those adjustments once again. Oh, except for this one. Sometimes it doesn't fully work all the way. As you can see this one right here, I feel like it's a little dark. There you go. And there, turn up the exposure a little bit because it's starting getting darker outside. One thing I did not do on these ones either is crop it. So quick tip, this makes your editing a lot quicker, is to learn the keyboard hotkeys. So for instance, in Lightroom, C is for crop. So I'll go ahead and push C. Come up here to aspect ratio 4:5, because that's what Instagram likes. Crop it. That looks good. Go to the next photo, C again to crop it. Make sure your aspect ratio is 4:5. Drag it down to where you want it. That looks good. Next one, C again. Oh, almost forgot to change the aspect ratio. 4:5. Boom, there you go. And that was just a quick way of how I edit my photos. And again, if you enjoyed that video, please leave a comment saying that you did, like, and subscribe. Go watch my other videos. I have other videos on how I edit photos as well. And again, I know the car was dirty. Do not come after me for that, please. We were driving around all day. It was raining outside. There was absolutely no time to wash it. It was a last second photo shoot. We just so happened to find this awesome tree with the leaves falling, and it made for great photos. Mercedes loved it, which I'm so ecstatic for that they reached out to use my photos. I can't believe they did that. I've had other companies reach out, but Mercedes reaching out, which for some reason felt different, and that felt really cool. I look forward to working with them in the future and other brands and other companies. So please, if you have any questions at all, leave them in the comment section down below, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.